One more time for me.
Welcome to Wild Turkey Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. We're standing here on the Wild Turkey Hill, known as the Wild Turkey Hill.
This episode of Bourbon Pursuit is brought to you in partnership by the following. Art Eatables, the world's first bourbon-certified chocolatier and creator of the small batch bourbon truffle. These aren't your grandma's bourbon balls. Shop their 2 locations in downtown Louisville or online at arteatables.com. Use offer code PURSUIT to save 5% on your in-store and online orders. We have yet another Bourbon Pursuit exclusive. I know lots of people who think going on a barrel pick is probably going to be like the coolest thing you're ever going to do. Well, I have to admit, now that I've done 6 or 7, it's actually pretty fun. But the barrel pick for this podcast is unlike any other. It's a collaboration where we get to choose multiple barrels from multiple stores. So first, I have to say thanks to Ed Bley, the bourbon kingpin at Cork and Bottle in Northern Kentucky, for letting us be a part of this. If you don't know the history of Cork and Bottle, listen to episode 83 where Ed joins the show to talk about his store and their history with things such as private label Van Winkles. However, it's not only Ed we were joined by, but we also had Nick Dikeos, who is one of the founding members of the Bourbon Mafia, and Reid and Emerald joined us as well. Now, if you don't know Reid and Emerald, put it in search of in a forum and see what happens. These guys are known for picking epic barrels and have been associated with some of the best private label Willet bourbons to ever hit the market. And they're also a part of 1790B, which is another well-established bourbon group. We also have an episode that'll be coming out later featuring just Reid and Emerald themselves. Lastly, the legend himself, Jimmy Russell, joins to give all the great commentary and history as he always does. So now I know your next question is, so where do I get one of these killer private Russell's Reserve bottles? Well, they will be arriving very soon. When I say soon, I'm saying within the next month at Cork and Bottle in Northern Kentucky, and Julio's in New England that's right outside of Boston. Make sure you keep an eye on these because they will be gone extremely quick. Not to mention Bourbon Pursuit's going to be on the label, so you know immediately that it's going to be great. With that said, please take the time to support us on Patreon, and you can see cool things such as stickers and t-shirts we are giving away, as well as the monthly giveaways too. Make sure you're also following and liking us on Facebook. You can get caught up on all those great unedited footage and content as well as bloopers. Enjoy this week's bonus episode. Welcome back to the episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. Kenny and Ryan here in beautiful Lawrenceburg, Kentucky at Wild Turkey doing something that we've never done before.
No, definitely. We just drug like 30 wires, 50 boxes. Everybody's pissed. They're like, why can't we drink bourbon? No, I'm kidding. But super excited to be here at Wild Turkey. I've been blessed to do many barrel picks, but this is my first year, so I'm excited to be here.
This is my second Wild Turkey barrel pick, but this is going to be one that's completely different than anything else that we've ever done before, because this one is going to be a collaboration of a few different places. This has been something that we got Jimmy Russell right in here right next to us as well, so this is going to be quite the entertaining few hour or so that we're going to go through. So before we get started, I kind of quickly want to go around the table real quick and have everybody introduce themselves just quickly, who you are, where you're from, who you're representing, so on and so forth. So I'll start to my left here in the back corner.
Emerald and ADAIR out of Tucson, Arizona. Just looking forward to my first barrel tasting. This looks like fun.
The sarcasm is laying on thick this morning.
Chris Reynolds out of Mason, Ohio. Here just to learn from these first-timers. I guess you put it well said.
Reid Bechtel from Clifton, Virginia. I'm hanging out with Emerald. We did some Reid and Emerald barrels a while ago. Got real lucky and been called it quits.
And we got somebody else here who's on their first barrel pick. Go ahead.
I'm Jimmy Russell, the master distiller at the Wild Turkey Distillery. This is my only second time I've got to do this.
Well, my name's Ed Bley. I work at Cork and Bottle, run the spirits and beer department there. And ideal pick for me. It's a dream pick. So thank you very much all for coming.
Absolutely.
Nick Dikeos from Northern Kentucky, and just really excited to be here.
Party.
This is like an AA meeting almost.
Dave SALSITO from Tucson, Arizona. It's my second barrel tasting, actually. So this is
a new for me, one for me. So thanks.
Well, awesome. So you could tell the sarcasm was getting laid on pretty thick because we have some very, very experienced people here. And this is actually exciting because this is the first ever podcast that we've ever actually done during a barrel tasting itself. So I think that's very interesting. But we're starting off with something unique here. So I don't know who poured this, but please go ahead and explain to me what we are drinking here before we start actually tasting here.
We figured we'd start off with something that's great and we all love near and dear, so we started off with a 2001 Pewter Top Kentucky Spirit.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So cheers, everybody. Cheers.
So I guess the one thing where we start diving into this, for a lot of you that are very experienced in doing this, what is your mentality coming into a barrel picking?
Mentality's real easy. I'm just looking to see what's here. We're going to find the absolute best things that we possibly can and spread them out a little bit here this time on this pick. So some of them will be up at Julio's and some of them will be at Cork and Bottle. And I think we're going to find some really special stuff today.
Did you do any like tongue push-ups this morning? Get the palate trained. You know?
I've been resting my palate for the past few days. I only had about 6 pours yesterday.
Nice.
This is also pretty unique in the fact that we're choosing 6 barrels today. Isn't that right?
Yep, 6 barrels.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not just one barrel pick, right? We're kind of. I was talking to Ed yesterday, and I was just like, I'm gonna be drunk as hell after this, and he says you should just make sure you eat a good breakfast in the morning. So
it sounds like Ed didn't even eat breakfast.
It's gonna be a long day.
Except for a big lunch.
There you go.
Big lunch.
Big lunch.
All right, so let's go ahead and get it started. Wherever we're starting off from.
Well, what we're doing here, we have the single barrel selection that wholesalers, retailers, the bars, and everything can come in and select their own barrel. They get to taste right out of the barrel. You know, when we're selecting for our single barrels, we're selecting for the general public. We're looking for a certain taste, trying to be consistent. Every barrel has a little bit of different taste. The way that tree grows in the woods has effect on when you're bottling 101 or 81, 12 to 1,400 barrels in a batch, you can get that consistent flavor and taste. But when we're selecting for everybody, we're selecting, trying to find barrels that taste identical. On this tasting, what we're doing, you all know your customers. You know whether they like more spicy, less spicy, and all. So we're letting you select what you want for your own customers because you know your customers. I don't know your customers. But when we're selecting for everybody all over the world. This way, you're selecting for your own private customers. You know whether they want it more spicy, less spicy, a little sweeter, or whatever. So you get to taste all different barrels and get to pick the barrel that you like for your own place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these are true unicorns, I tell people. With the way limited releases are these days, I mean, these private barrel picks are the way to go, you know, for people to get their hands on something that's very unique. And so I'm ready to get started.
Well, what we always do, we bring you to the storage building. We're in the AUR house here at the Wild Turkey Distillery. This building was built in the 1890s. Been in operation ever since 1890s. So it's a lot of bourbon barrels went through this storage building in the last, all these years. So you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right.
We realized early on this was built on quite early because it was hard as hell just to find an outlet to plug all this audio equipment in.
Well, you know, we're only allowed to put certain amount of electricity. We come under federal government supervision. But you saw when you come through the gate, everybody's picture was made. There was a camera up there. Up until 1980s, we had 9 or 10 government men sit here every day. They carried all the keys to the buildings. We didn't have any keys. The only keys we had was to offer. And right now, if they was here still on the premises, they would be right in here with us. We have to.
They'd have a mic talking to us.
We have to count for every drop. Just like me, if I want a bottle, everybody thinks I can get plenty. But if I want a bottle, I got to go to one of y'all's places and buy it just like anybody else. We cannot take anything out of here. We have to count for every drop. We have to, like this, we're having to.
Got to pay that excise tax, right?
Well, that's pretty good tax too. You know, in the state of Kentucky, we pay a tax on each barrel that sits here and ages each year. So you know, most of the bourbons are 4 and 5 years old on the market. We don't put out anything under 7. So 7 to 12 is my idea of what the best bourbons are. The Russells that we're looking here at now, the single barrels, is always 10 years old, somewhere in that range. The barrel we're getting ready to sample was made in 2007, and it's straight out of the barrel. We'll pull it right straight out of the barrel. This way, everybody got your glasses ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Better drink this one pretty quickly then.
I'm getting tangled up in lines.
You got the extra large size.
Kenny, there's more.
Oh, okay.
We're using Old Copper Thief. It's been around as long as I have, and that's been over 60 some odd years now. Who's ready? I'll put as much in that one as I can, and you pour. Oh, it didn't get much.
Yeah, I'll distribute it out.
You know, we're going through a lot of barrels here.
Yeah, so I was about to say, I'll look to one of you guys. So I'll look over here. Well, when you're choosing barrels, because you guys are a lot more experienced than maybe myself, and we're going to do close to, it looks like 12 today. How do you go through this to make sure your palate doesn't get fatigued or anything like that?
The best way to do it in tasting, the first thing to me, the best thing is look at the color. Bourbon is the only product in the world that you cannot add color to. All the color must be natural from aging in that new charred white oak barrel. If you add color to it, it becomes whiskey. You can't call it bourbon anymore. The most important thing to me in tasting is the aroma. I use simple terms explaining. You walk in a restaurant, what's the first impression you get of food?
Smell.
If it doesn't smell good, I don't care how good it tastes, you done decide it's not any good. So you ought to have, I'll give you the basics. You ought to have a lot of caramel, vanilla, sweetness, and aroma. And I like to smell with my mouth closed, and then smell again with my mouth open. I get a different aromas. I don't know whether y'all do or not. Then you ought to get the same thing in the taste. I'm giving the basics: caramel, vanilla, sweetness. Some says nutty, fruity, different things. But me, that's what we're looking for. So I like to put it in my mouth and give it that good old Kentucky chew, let it roll all around your mouth. Now, when we're tasting, we spit it right out. And then the finish, what kind of taste does it leave in your mouth? I go back to food. I use simple terms. If you eat food and it don't leave a good taste in your mouth, how many times do you order it again? You don't. We want to leave it a good taste in your mouth. So let's have another one before the night's over with. The only thing about that, you might have too many before the night's over.
In our case, the morning.
The morning. What's the proof on this one, Jimmy?
Kev, what was proof on it? About 121?
121, all right.
We're looking at that guy.
I didn't miss it, did I?
And Jimmy, if this is a Russell's, is it bottled at 120 or 110?
110.
110.
Bottled at 110.
What is the, so when I do these barrel picks, like there's like an oil that you get, you know, when you're, I guess, is that from the
I hope
charcoal not being filtered?
No oil taste.
Not oil taste, like I guess it's got more of a oily texture, like more thicker, I guess. Yeah, glisten.
Well,
yeah.
That's because
I'm not saying it right. But.
That's the caramel vanilla.
Gotcha.
No, the lighter the product is, the less of that you'll get. When you talk about oil, to me, I'm thinking of fusel oils.
Yeah.
And fusel oils, you don't want a lot of fusel oils in. That's what makes you, after a night of drinking, especially if you mix it with something sweet, you reach out here and scratch your head the next day.
So Ed, I guess a good question for you is when you're doing this, you know, you understand it's going to be bottled at
110.
110, right? And we're drinking around 120, 121. So how do you go about deciding whether this is a good one? You just put a nickel down on top of the barrel, right? So kind of, I guess, talk about your thought process in
what
this.
I'm looking at is, so this barrel's at 121, I believe you said. So we're going to need to proof it down about 5 to 6% of water, of water, and that way it gives you an idea what it's going to be like when it's bottled. It's not exact, but it's close. All bourbon changes with water. I'm sure Mr. Russell can tell you that.
I'm Jimmy. I'm old enough. Just call me Jimmy.
So are you putting water in your glass to kind of mimic that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get an idea what it's going to handle, how it's going to handle water, what it's going to taste like by adding water, and see how the finish is affected, how the flavor is affected, how the nose is affected. When I find it one that I enjoy, I'll mark it so we can go back and do them blind at the end.
Gotcha.
There's one thing.
This one made the cut. It's got a coin on it.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about this is what you don't realize. 1 gallon of water, on the rule of thumb, 1 gallon of water will reduce 100 gallons of bourbon 1 proof point.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So that's that bottle cap there is too much water to put in there to reduce it down to 110.
Yeah, definitely. So when I do it, I just kind of eyeball it. I'm looking at 5% water, so I added about 3-4 drops of water to it, and that'll give you an idea what it's like.
Yes.
What's crazy about this one that I've noticed right off the bat is that the dry finish at cast strength isn't there when you proof it down with water. It sweetens it up. And the finish is pretty daggone long on this one.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this barrel, actually.
That's what we want is, you know, that long, good finish in your mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this one. I'll put a coin too.
Once we get to about 3/4 of the way down there,
They're all coins.
So that's why
They all get coins.
All we have are pennies, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This one is 16-518.
Do we have a proof on 16,518?
121.7.
119.9.
Man.
I didn't taste that. I just wanted
Gosh. It's like telling Albert Einstein E does not equal MC squared, right? So what are you guys noticing about this one that might be different from the last one?
It's not near as spicy.
Yeah.
Not nearly as spicy.
It's a lot more approachable on this one.
Wood's a lot lower.
Yeah. So proofing it down might hurt this one, you know.
You'd be surprised. That
Be
last
surprised.
one even surprised me.
Really?
Down. I thought it was going to be dry to finish, and it sweetened it up.
See, that's what I know. That's why I'm a podcast host.
And so, Jimmy, we all know that each one of these are unique, and they're, just because of maturation time, aging, different parts of the warehouse. I guess when you are doing a barrel pick for somebody like whether it's Julio's or Cork and Bottle, how do you go and you choose which barrels you're going to take? I mean, are you taking them from different warehouses? Are you taking
Some
them
of
from
them's
somewhere?
different. Some of them's different warehouse. Most of them's on 4th, 5th, middle of the warehouse, 3rd, 4th, 5th floor. The center cup, we call it here. It's ours is all 7 stories tall, metal clad, and in the summertime it can be 30 degrees difference between the top floors and these bottom floors. Mm-hmm. And you have to have that to age bourbon properly. It's got to get hot in the summertime to expand out into that wood. In the wintertime, it's got to extract. It's got to breathe. It's got to go in and out of that wood to age. If it stayed hot all the time, it wouldn't age. If it stayed cold, it'd be just like drinking it straight off the still. Pretty grainy, yeasty taste at that time.
It's hard to replicate our weather. Hell, 2 weeks ago it was 40. Now it's freaking 80.
Well, the thing about that is, people's asked me about that for years. We had a real cold winter. Oh, it's going to, well, I hate to say this, but one fellow said you had to keep bourbon at a constant temperature to age. If you age at a constant temperature, it's not going to age.
Nobody will hear this. Just go ahead. You can call them out and tell them who told you that.
Yeah.
The thing. Then I've had people call me when we had a year or two ago. We had zero weather. What happens? That bourbon freezes. I said, what? They said, if that bourbon freezes, what are you going to do? I said, I won't worry about it. They said, well, why? I said, we won't be around. If bourbon freezes, we won't be around. We'll be frozen.
Haven't they ever put a bottle of Goldschlager in the freezer?
Yeah, I know, right? Apparently nobody's been to college.
Everything in our business has been experimented with. Many, many years ago, some of us was doing experiments. We was trying to freeze the water out of it. So you could just, in a bottle, you'd have very little.
Like condensed version
and then you'd put the water in it when you got it. Save shipping costs and everything for people going to, That didn't work. You couldn't freeze it out. But everything in our business has been tried. We're the only company that I know of. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong on this. Everything out here is Wild Turkey products. We don't have any other products. Most bourbon distilleries has maybe 40 or 50 different labels. But everything we have is the 101, 81, Russell's, rare breed, Kentucky Spirit or single barrels, and our rye whiskey. That's it, and then American honey.
I'll throw a curveball at you then. So what about the recent release of Bond and Lilliard and Old Ripy?
Well, if you look and see the advertisement on that, the advertisement says Jimmy Russell and Eddie Russell had nothing to do with it.
Fair enough. So that's why it's still on the shelves.
Yeah, if you look at all the advertisement, that's what it says, Jimmy Russell and
The
Eddie
fine
Russell.
print?
Yeah.
No, it's big print. Jimmy Russell and Eddie Russell has nothing to do with this.
Interesting. That's good to know.
That's wild.
Awesome.
All right, I guess we're ready for barrel number 3, right?
All right, that's where's behind you.
I think
back?
it's right next to Kenny. Yeah.
All right.
What's the proof on this one, Jimmy? 495.
122.8.
Ooh, the nose.
You better proof it down. You're supposed to be taking notes here about how this is supposed to work.
Yeah, I wasn't a good student.
Yeah. The ryes, Jimmy. I mean, the ryes are just spectacular.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about rye.
Sounds like a sore subject.
No, why didn't you tell us 7 or 8 years ago that rye was going to make this huge? Here, 7 or 8
That's
years
right.
ago, us and
Yeah.
Jim Beam was making a couple of days of rye a year. That's all we were making. And now we're still on allocations on
You
a
can
rye.
blame all the hipster bartenders for that one.
That's Well, no. This is what's amazing to me. My age, I've been in the business 63 years now. In my age, rye whiskey was basically mixed drinks, Manhattan's old fashioned. My grandson working for us now. These younger
That one's
generations are
gonna-
drinking on the rocks. I never heard people drinking around on the rocks. Well, my grandson drinks it on the rocks. A lot of the young people drink it on the rocks.
You drinking neat? Yeah, good drink indeed. It's only got water in it.
We're trying to get caught up on a rye whiskey, but we're having a hard time getting caught up on a rye whiskey. We thought we'd get into the single barrel programs of rye last year. We didn't. We thought we'd get into it this year. We still haven't got enough to do it.
Today would be a great day, though.
Yeah.
We want to have the inaugural
This is the
barrel
first
pick.
podcast.
Yeah.
Here.
We don't have them.
I'm all for that.
Very few of our 101 ryes on the market right now. Basically, at the bars is basically about the only place we can get it to right now. It's few in the stores, but most of it is at the bars.
So who are my guys from Tucson? We had
Emerald? Yeah, Emerald here, and then Dave Salsito.
and Dave's from Tucson as well.
He's just drinking. He's not saying
Yeah, that's okay.
He's a smart man in the group.
So I want to talk to you all just for a little bit. So talk to me about bourbon in Arizona. Like, what's the kind
The
of
first word is scarce.
okay?
It doesn't leave Phoenix. The big stores get it, so we have to come out here to get some.
you gotta take a Southwest flight out here.
Very popular down there. I mean, it's like anywhere else. We got all the hipster bars popping up, so all the good whiskey doesn't make it down there. So, fortunately, we're part of some of the bigger groups here that are able to get some of the good whiskey down there. But Arizona does not get a lot of allocation of anything.
That's what I hear. So.
Well, the other problem is that when you do find it online, we do not ship to Arizona. You're like, what?
Yeah.
One of those. Oddly enough, you can't ship to Kentucky, even though 95% of it's actually made here, right?
We ship all over the world. Everybody gets ours.
Oh, you can ship wherever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. He's talking about Kentucky. Kentucky's the birthplace of bourbon. Most of Kentucky's still in Prohibition. There's still completely 20 dry counties in Kentucky. A few years ago, over half of them are dry. And what's happened now, when I say completely dry, is nothing. Now, a lot of them, the cities is moist, we call it.
Yeah.
I heard the women hate that word, by the way.
In the cities, a lot of them part of the cities went wet, or moist, we call it. The bars and restaurants can serve it, but still
Amazing what some tax money will do.
Exactly.
Well, that's the trouble in Kentucky. We pay the state tax on each barrel that's set here in ages each year. Most of the counties are dry, and they still get that tax money. So we've tried, in the state of Kentucky, coal, they only pay tax on the coal in the counties. Here, every county gets the spirits tax. So they're not going to vote themselves out of tax money.
With good reason, I guess.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what's your thoughts on the new law passing in Kentucky to be able to sell old bottles again?
They've been doing it forever. That's been done forever.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Just hope there are old bottles.
Yeah.
That's what you got to be careful about.
Counterfeits.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's some places right now, not in America, but in the world, there's a lot of counterfeit products. This is something it never happened to us before, but the last few years there have been a lot of lawsuits filed misrepresenting what you're doing.
But that's the thing.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part.
Now, I saw some e-bills flying around, and I saw some rumors. So I guess, Jimmy, what's the idea of eventually maybe this going to barrel proof, uncharcoal filtered, that kind of sort of release for a Russell's?
Well, originally everything. It's all filtered. You have to, because that char comes loose in the barrel. We use the number 4 char. We use the heavy char. But how I want to say this and be diplomatic about it.
I understand that you have corporate overlords, right?
Well, the old in my time, if bourbon wasn't up to standards, they charcoal filter it to smooth it out a little bit. And a lot of people back in that day and time, and even today, the older group, if they see charcoal filtered on a label, they won't buy it. They think it was something inferior, they're trying to smooth it out a little bit. Jack Daniels has turned that around. They make it sound like it.
Is it okay thing, right?
It's okay. But we don't charcoal filter any of our products.
Okay.
Now the reason that you chill filter.
Chill filter. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're thinking about chill filter.
Yeah.
What happens in chill filtering? The more water you add to it, if it gets cold, we call it flocking. I don't know whether you've ever seen that or not. A lot of little white specks will get in the bottle. It's the fatty acids. And normally, we never did chill filter anything. Now, new people comes in, they want to chill filter. Now this will not be chill filtered. Of course, we're adding very little water. Our 101, we never did chill filter just a few years ago, but that's a big thing coming back now. And actually, what you're doing is, say you're pulling some of the fatty acids out of it. It normally, if it gets cold, it'll make it flock, we call it. The more water you add to it, the more it'll do that. See, we're adding very little water to any of our products because we still distill at low proof, put it in a barrel at low proof, and we're
For anybody that's for anybody that's not watching on video right now, he just dropped like 8 nickels. So
You'll be
I'm
seeing
pretty sure
this
that
in
ounce
a
of
bottle.
silver out one.
yes. Basically, Ed stacks higher than Emerald stack right now.
He's all in, right?
But Ed, why are you putting buffalo nickels on a wild turkey barrel?
Reid found me out.
make sure you turn that right end out, not in the
Yeah, we
barrel.
just turned it over.
So what is it, Ed, about this one that you're
I like
feeling?
the whole package is solid. The nose is great, the finish is great, the palate's great. It's an even, well-balanced, sweeter bourbon from Wild Turkey, and those are the best ones.
I totally agree. This, as soon as it hit my mouth, I was like, this one's one of those ones you're like, it's a special one.
Cream brulee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
like
great.
the
Maybe
torch,
the
when they torch the creme brulee.
The champagne of bourbon.
Sugar bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And handle the
And
water beautifully.
Yeah, and I always lean towards the sweeter side myself. I'm not a fan of as much of the dry bourbons as I am the sweet, lingering finish ones. I got sweet tooth.
You know, our formula, we're a high rye content on our. Now, you've tasted all these barrels. They're all made the same year. The day it was made and went in the barrel, it was the same product. We have two formulas here. We have a rye formula and our bourbon formula. All of our products will taste different because us selecting barrels for 81 or 101 or Russell's or Rare Breed or Spirit. We're selecting the barrels at different ages for different taste. But the day it was made and went in the barrel, it was the same product.
Can't stop smelling.
I think the only time you can say nuttiness on the nose is really during a barrel tasting, right? I mean, that's about the only time that it really flies.
That is Friday night.
We've got her. She's actually pulling out one of the fresh bungs that have been put in there. So something tells me this is something that somebody had previously tasted. They passed upon.
You know, I've run across a bunch of barrels that people go nuts on that other people have passed on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean too much.
Yeah.
They're looking for a weeded whiskey. They're in the wrong place.
Right. The Wild Turkey wheat. Wrong rick house.
Try to knock it in.
So instead of, it wasn't. Can't see it on camera. Definitely can't hear it. But what happened was that you hit around the bung to make it actually come out of the barrel itself. However, if it's just giving you too much shit, you just say, well, fuck it. We're just going to hit it all the way through it. And it'll end up inside the barrel.
Everybody ready
and
for
at some
another one?
point, that's going to be somebody else's problem if we don't take the barrel.
The hardest thing about doing barrel picks I've learned is it doesn't matter what it tastes like at cash strength and it's getting proof down.
Right.
I would think.
replicate it. You know.
Well, I think that's definitely something you have to take into consideration when you are doing this, only because of how awesome this is to be tasting out of the barrel. I think it also has something to do. I mean, when you walk in, before you even came in here, right? Like the aroma of just bourbon was already coming onto you. Even at 10 a.m., you're like, "Fuck it, let's drink," right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think,
all amped up.
yeah, I think it definitely puts a psychological factor into it as well.
You know, to me, it always tastes, you get this aroma and everything in here, it always tastes better to me in here than it does anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, other than like in a kitchen with like bacon frying behind you, right? Like that may be the close second.
Well, you know, I know this to be a fact. Many years ago, Weller and Water was huge in Texas. That was at one distillery at one time. You know what it was everywhere else?
Spun it around and said,
Old Fitzgerald. No.
Oh, Fitz, yeah.
3 spices.
People drank Weller. That Fitzgerald is not worth drinking. People drank Fitzgerald at Weller's, and I know they'd bottle out the same tank when it was bottled. Back when that distillery was operating. Now it's two different companies. Buffalo
really
Trace owns Weller now, and Heaven Hill owns Old Fitzgerald, and they're really changing that now. You know what that's going to be, don't you? You're probably not going to get much Old Fitzgerald anymore.
Really?
Larceny.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Bourbon, that's what I'm saying, these distilleries, these people don't have distilleries. They're in trouble right now. The bourbon market is short.
Yeah.
like Buffalo Trace, you can't hardly find Elmer T. Lee's anymore.
No.
You can't hardly find a lot of stuff with Beams anymore. Heaven Hill, a lot of their products you can't find anymore.
I heard MGP's charging thousands of dollars per barrel now for people that are net new customers that they they got granddad passed away, left them a good inheritance. They say, you know what, this sounds like a good fun gig for we'll see how long.
Exactly.
And I guess it's the blanket statement across anybody that's starting a distillery. They say, well, we're going to source first while we're building.
Right.
Hopefully we get bought out, and then we'll figure it out down the line, right? But even people that want to start net new and start talking MGP, I mean, they're talking a couple thousand a barrel now versus what was just a few hundred
big contracts
3-4 years ago.
It's wild. Yeah, it's absolutely wild. So yeah, MGP, from what I'm hearing, is having a huge contract to even be able to buy barrels from them anymore. We're talking 7 figures. That's important. But yeah, I think
it takes a good inheritance.
Yeah, a good inheritance. I think I was at that place a few weeks ago.
See, that was the old Seagram's plant many years ago.
Right.
So the big distillery up there in my age, you know what it was? Shinley.
Shinley, yes. Shinley.
They're a big bottling now, they're everything. And then there was another plant there, a smaller plant called James Walsh, O'Shaughnessy plant.
Yes, sir.
That's a beautiful territory and where that was.
Yes, sir. Did Shinley, if memory serves correct, I believe they had 4 distilleries during that time period.
What?
Yeah.
Shinley?
Yeah, wasn't it?
How many?
4, I believe.
In which
But not
county?
just in
What county?
Not just in Indiana, but in California, I believe they had one. And
They had about 15 in Kentucky.
no kidding. See, you learn something every day.
It's a town in Pennsylvania called Shinley, Pennsylvania.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I wouldn't try to play stump the chump with this guy.
They own Scotch distilleries and everything. Buffalo Trace, they own that. Old Stag, Ancient Age,
I think I have some of those bottles.
I.W. Harper,
Yes, sir.
Louisville. They had several down around Bardstown. You know, if you told me 35 years ago, the 2 biggest companies at that time were Shinley and National. They're both gone. Now, Shinley got out of business completely, but National's in starches and chemicals and everything, and they sold off their spirits division. But if you told me 35, 40 years ago, them 2 had been out of business, now I told you you're crazy, because they were the 2 largest companies in the world.
I'm sad National Distillers went out.
Hell, you didn't know about National Distillers till 5 years ago. Okay, so
National Distillers wasn't busy 5 years ago.
exactly until he gets on the Dusty train, and then all of a sudden he's just like, I got to find the stuff that never can't get anymore. Right? That's it. This episode of Bourbon Pursuit is brought to you in partnership by the following. Art Eatables, the world's first bourbon-certified chocolatier, is your best source for bourbon-inspired candy and chocolate creations. Their small batch bourbon truffle is found throughout the Bourbon Trail, featuring over 70 different bourbons and ryes. They make chocolates for more distillers than everyone else in the state combined. Each bourbon truffle is adorned with a chocolate token, their trademark BIT, or the bit, that identifies the bourbon and marks it as a genuine Art Eatables creation. If you're looking to try a bourbon and chocolate pairing, this is the creme de la creme. In addition to their famous bourbon truffles that come in 4, 8, 16 packs and various sampler collections, check out their other creations such as caramels, dipped Oreos, and hand-painted chocolates. Shop their downtown Louisville locations at 631 South 4th Street and 819 West Main Street, or have them shipped to your door when the online store reopens this fall at arteatables.com. Use offer code PURSUIT to save 5% on your in-store and online orders.
How did you actually get started with doing this?
Cutting the grass, is that a true story?
No, that's Eddie.
That's Eddie.
Needing a job.
He's cutting the grass in Italy right now.
I mean, so,
Exactly.
Thank you, Ed. No, I teased about that. I told him I need the job. But my grandfather was in the business. My dad was in the business. Actually, my wife was working here before I was.
oh really?
And I come to work, and she stayed home, took care, or after her children come along, and she went back to school. It was in administration in the high school. But my father, my grandfather, and back when I was growing up, 4 distilleries still left here in Anderson County. And I had families working at all of them. My age, when you got out of college, it's normally the first thing you want to do is stay at home and get a job. Now you young people, get out, get away far as I can. then I tease 10 years, you're back home. But I was lucky enough to get on here. Actually, my dad was working for the Old Joe Distilling Company. You ever heard of Old Joe?
Yes, sir.
Bonds Mill, Old Joe.
Yes, sir.
He was working for them. And he finished up the last 10 years of his life was here. And that's the worst job I've ever had.
Really?
Yes. I was his boss.
Jimmy, low fill barrels. Is there something about those that you notice that stand out? Because they seem to always be.
Well, most time when these single barrels, I call them the sugar barrels. You know why, don't you?
Why?
The employees know where the best barrel tastes. No, you was talking about cutting grass. Eddie tells that story on me. Eddie tells a story on me. He come here and he thought he could. I was running the plant and everything. He thought I made him mow grass, dump bottles and everything. He said he didn't think that was right. He understands now because you're working with people that you went to school with, and they can't say you've never done this. He's had to do everything they've done. He understands it now, but he didn't understand it back when he was younger.
You got to earn it.
Actually, he was playing football for Western Kentucky University.
No kidding.
And he come here for a summer job. He said, he tells a story that Mama told me to put him to work. And he's been a long 36 summers now. And I don't tell him this, but he's got a better education now if he stayed at Western University playing football. Playing football for a major college, you get a lot of help in your grades. Yeah. But he went to school at nights, daytime while he was working, and got his degree. And he wasn't getting any help doing that study. He had to do that on his own. That's the reason I say.
So Nick, we haven't heard much out of you yet. So let's get some information out of you real quick. So put that microphone next to your face.
Turn it back on. You didn't get much out of it.
Turn it on.
But we're going to. So I guess Nick, kind of explain to me, like how many picks you've been on. Have you done wild turkey before? How's this one unique or different compared to the last one? So on and so forth.
I've done several picks. I'm actually a founding member of the Bourbon Mafia, so we've done picks everywhere.
Okay. So you know Brian Gelfo very well,
yes.
who we've had on the show before.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. This one is kind of a little bit different barrel pick for me, just being with Reid and Emerald. Two guys I've looked up to for years. Some of the first private picks that I ever got to taste.
I look forward to
which
meeting
kind of snowballed into this whole obsession. But, since then, I've learned, the unicorns and all that garbage. I'm more into the private picks right now. Stuff coming out of different stores, and I'm very fortunate to live 3 or 4 miles away from Ed's place up in Cork and get some of the picks he has coming out of there.
Those single barrel picks, what's nice about them, they're just unique. It's like Eddie's.
Absolutely.
Like Jimmy said.
Absolutely.
It's off profile, so you can go off and you got 9 labels with the same picture on it, and you got 10 different barrels.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think me and Ed line up, where most of his picks are a little bit different, a little bit off profile, and that's what I like to dive into is get the, I've had Russell's Reserve, and it's great whiskey, love it to death. Have plenty of bottles at the house, but when you get something that's a private pick from a group or a different store, it's like, ooh, that's not the everyday thing coming out, and that's what really gets me excited now.
What's funny, that's kind of the same story I have with Ryan from Julio's. Just a phenomenal guy. I first met the guy. We're standing in the aisle, we're just talking whiskey. I had no idea the guy owned the place. And we're just chit chatting back and forth. And like, yeah, one day I want to do a barrel. I was like, well, you want to join us? I'm from Arizona. I'm in Massachusetts. He's like, come out to Kentucky. So we all hopped on the airplane and showed up. 5 guys I'd never met before, and we just went out and had a good time. And Ryan's been always good at just finding those nice off profiles. So, Ryan's so busy right now, he's opened another store. That's why he's not here today. But he has just been very good, whether it's Scotch or bourbon or anything. Just finding those nice little niche bourbons that just stand out. I miss the old Rock Hill Farms days they had.
Oh, God.
Cherry bombs.
I was going to say, so I kind of want to dig into you guys a little bit that have been doing barrel picks for years now. When some of these bourbons, when you get to be able to do barrel picks of Elmer Tea, all these other kind of things that have basically fallen off the map, right? So I guess how has it changed in your opinion the fact that is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing that bourbon's become so popular that you can only get private barrel picks through a very, very limited allocation now, and the things that you can get aren't necessarily the things that you could used to get 5 years ago.
A little bit of mixed thoughts. I mean, with the popularity means you get more choices. So maybe it was Jimmy that said it, that said, hey, we haven't made our best bourbon yet, so that means there's another great one coming up in the future that we're going to have one day.
He's also full of shit, but you know,
so are all of us. No more glasses.
Yeah, I know. We're all full of shit right now.
So I like the idea that there's more choices out there. I like the fact I can tell who's distilling it. I don't like all the different labels sometimes. I like to go, okay, Wild Turkey, whoever it may be. But the fact that they're pushing to continue to climb that ladder on who's the best gives us more options for the consumer. So it's not a bad thing. What you worry about is things get thin because you run out of juice, but I think all the distillers are at full steam, make as many as you can. So that just means more choices.
Absolutely.
If you have 10% of the barrels are unbelievably great, well, they make 10,000 more barrels, that gives me 1,000 more to choose from. The first Reid and Emerald, we stumbled on and fell on top of a 6-year-old barrel that was phenomenal.
That's right.
So, I mean, it poked us. We didn't pick it picked us, and it's a damn good bourbon. I didn't make it. But any idiot could have picked that bottle and go, that's a good bourbon. So
That's been the big change, though. If you take a look now, number one, you've got, when we started picking barrels, it was not unusual for us to request samples and get 40, 50 samples sent to us.
yeah, seriously.
Or go to a rick house,
375s.
walk down between the aisles and just drill the barrels, just one after another. And what's happened now with the pressure on the distilleries of all the groups coming in, the number, this is a luxury today, having this number of barrels today. So, it's
Absolutely.
truly a luxury. Because, look, even, it's interesting, because you have a lot of guys out there say these fabulous barrel pickers. I tell you what, this is lucky. I get 200 barrels of taste from them, which we had for the first barrels we did, with 200 of them. And we were the first people to go through the rick house.
The first 100 were the hardest.
Hard.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if you pick bad barrels, you were really an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you. I've been in some on Four Roses in 79 too, and they used to give you 10, 12 barrels. Now it's like 3, to pick from each time, and it's like, well, and which are still amazing, but it's just.
We try to taste everything blind. When we pick at Four Roses, we say turn the barrels around. We don't care what the
recipe.
And what Jimmy said is we used to always at Four Roses. Jim was always a nice guy and he was great to have. But we went to the young lady who managed the warehouse
and asked
her.
We
said, Corey, would you pick the barrels for us? And she'd bring them in. And we said, we don't care what the recipe is. We don't care. Just find the best ones you have. Turn them around. I don't want guys looking at the recipe. Because they had an F yeast there for a while. And everybody wanted the F yeast. And she snuck a couple of the Fs in on us, and all of a sudden,
Excellent.
holy cow. No, it can't be an F.
Yeah.
It's so many factors. You just can't look at one
You can't
dimension and
look
go,
at
it's always going to be X.
Yeah,
okay.
but they like today to have this variety of good whiskey. You're not going to we haven't hit a bad barrel.
They've all been standouts.
Yeah, they're really, really nice.
Not just trying to.
Yeah, we all look like geniuses.
Very smart.
Well, I think it is time for another barrel then, right?
There we go, yes.
Where's
Lingered
the,
on this one for about 15 minutes.
where's the next one, Cat?
You are noticing we're slowing down.
Yeah, we're slowing way down.
So are you looking at doing any type of experimenting to do longer aging or anything?
Us, no.
No?
Me, I could give you my personal. I think bourbon's better between 7 and 12. It gets much over 12 out. Now we got a limited edition out right. We got a limited edition out right now called Decade. It's 10 to 20-year-old bourbons. Every time we put out an older bourbon, it's only been about 100 to 150 barrels. And we're tasting them. We put out a 14, a 15, a 17, and this 10 to 20. We put out a 13, 16 combination. We're tasting them. If they start getting that woody, we move them down and slow that aging down. We can control 100 to 150 barrels. We can't control 700,000 barrels. That's what we got in inventory right now.
So I understand you're going to give us a signed bottle of that each?
We have
Well, it's
one
not
each.
his favorite apparently, right? So he'll say fuck you, Jimmy Russell, right?
That was his age word before you.
We have one East, and all I can vouch for, it's 63 years old. It's here, and I got here, and we're still using the same East.
So what has changed in the last couple of years you've been here since?
Well, the only change we've done is better equipment.
Really?
When I started, you done everything by hand. You sit there and control the steam valve, pump valve by hand. Now we have computers, but our computers we still have to have operators. Instead of opening and closing valves by hand, they're sitting there. They have to be out there when they're filling that fermenter. They have to be out there when they're weighing the grain. They have to be there when they're cooking. And actually, they make computers now. You could run this place in Arizona, but if something goes wrong, what are you going to do?
You send in the robot, right? You send in the robot that's on the... Yeah, you send in the drone, and you figure it out later, right?
You know,
Jimmy, when you added in the new still, how many years ago was that?
2009.
So what do you think, was there any changes in the
Same.
profile? So
No.
You were able to tune that puppy right on in.
It's the same steel, same size, everything. You know, it's copper. You have to change. They wear out. You have to replace them.
So all the plates in there, how often did you place a plate? So basically you just moved over to a new color.
No, we built when we built the new distillery, we built a completely new steel.
Yeah.
Same as the one old. Actually, part of the old steel that you're drinking out of, what you're drinking right now, come out of old steel.
Really?
And it's in the visitor center up there, so you can see inside, see what it looks like inside and all.
How about how about the oak barrels? Have they changed over the last 50 years? Thickness of staves or
No.
where you're pulling your oak?
No, we still get most of our oak out of Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky. And when I started, all staves were cut and kept out in the field for a minimum of 6 to 9 months. Ours still has to sit out in the. They're doing a lot of kiln drying on the woods now.
Okay, just to amplify the dry factor to get the.
You get
So is the age of the wood changed that the forests are pulling from? Is it all roughly, 6 to 10 years old? Or how old is the oak? Yeah,
you better talk about 30,
30-year-old oak.
25, 30.
Okay, good. That's what I was leaning towards. Was,
No, the way it is, you know, an oak tree replenishes itself. And what they do in the forestries, they go in there and make selective cuttings. They cut out so many, leave so many, and a new oak will pop up right there. Where a lot of things, pines and all, you have to seed it. But they'll replace themselves.
so over time, you kept the same stave, thickness, age of the oaks roughly the same age. So you guys have been consistent over the last 65 years as much as you possibly can do.
Well, we've been dealing with the same barrel company for 40 some odd years.
That's impressive.
The same grain company for corn is down here in Baghdad, Kentucky. We've been dealing with them over 40 years.
So that was going to be my next question on the corn. So no change in the corn. You haven't got a GMO.
You know, we don't use any GMO grains. We don't use any GMO grains. And to be honest with you, right now we're having to go to northern Germany to get a rye to meet our standards.
I guess, Jimmy, just go a little bit deeper with that. Like, why do you think you have to go to northern Germany to get your rye? I mean, is it because of production, or is it because
to
of
meet
better?
Our standards. Meet our standards.
Quality control, man.
Quality control. Meet our standards. We don't use any GMO grains.
Right.
We use 6-row barley. It's 2, 4, and 4-row barley. We use the 6-row barley.
And I guess you're going to know it better than everybody else around here. So when it comes to
Timothy Bar Turtle.
when it comes to like local growers, local farmers, whatever it is because I guess there's been this fad with bourbon lately and saying like, oh, we're farm to bottle, right? Like to the point like
Gluten-free, cage-free.
yeah, like who gives a shit, right? Because it's like let's buy something that's better for everybody. So I guess have you noticed with like local farmers, are they move into this GMO kind
Well,
of?
the big corn states all went GMO. Now they're starting to go back. See, you can grow about 250 acres to a bushel in GMO grain, and don't have to do much work with it. Where in the corn we use, about 150 bushels an acre. You're paying more for it. But we use the number 2 corn. Basically, our corn that we use is the same grade that you went to a grocery store and bought cornmeal to cook at home with.
Well, Jim, if you were going to change one thing, what would you change? Wild turkey or the industry? What would you change?
Wild turkey, I would not change anything. I would stay the same.
Perfection, you're going to keep right on.
I want to be consistent. Same. A lot of them say, back in the 70s, a lot of the distilleries, when the young people come along and start drinking gins and vodkas, a lot of the distilleries changed their formula, lightened it up to compete with
white whiskey or white bourbon, which I never understood that.
Well, no, I'm talking about lighting their formulas up and using more corn and all. Now they're not. We didn't change a thing. Now some of them thought I was hard-headed and stubborn here, but not changing. Another big thing I see now. When I started, everything was bottled around 100 proof. Then they started going down in proof. Do y'all see a big change now? Everybody's going back to high proof. We don't have to change.
Smart. So, have you guys changed your entry proof, or has that been consistent too? You're going at 110, or you're at 1?
We're a little higher now than 110.
What do you think the impact of that's been?
We know it doesn't have. We're not in that 120, 125 range.
So what happened when you started getting into those real high entry proofs? What are you doing? You pulling out the more of the astringent?
No, what you're doing,
solvents?
you're distilling higher.
Yeah.
So you're distilling a lot of. You like steak?
Yes.
You like it well done?
Not you.
Why?
Because you start baking the flavor out.
You answer my question. The higher you distill anything, the less flavor. You can distill up to 160 proof.
So you start becoming more pure alcohol, less flavor. You lose all the mash.
You lose the flavors.
So what you get? So you guys are over 110 now. What were you say in the 60s or 70s? Were you at 105, 110 entry or near?
Around 107, 110.
100. So you're just plus or minus a little bit.
Very little difference. Same form. I won't tell you the exact range. We come off the still somewhere around 120 proof.
Okay. You just taper it down a little bit around 110-ish.
No, and then the double distillation. The second distillation, we come around 125.
Okay.
And see, we're adding very little water to put it in the barrel to start. We've kept the flavor in it, and we're adding very little water. See, if I distilled at higher proof, I lost the flavor. If I when I get ready to put it in the barrel at 120, I'm going to put a lot of water in it. And then, well, actually, some of these barrel proofs on the market now is 140 some odd proof.
I mean, I guess that was I was impressed that you have 20-year-old barrels sitting.
We had a few of them.
They lose some here and there. They got some 60-year-old
some
stuff
guy
here
forgot,
somewhere.
hey, that's on the rack.
If it's 60-year-old, won't be nothing in the barrel.
It's a problem with Excel sheet formula, right? I mean, that's what the problem is at the end of the day. Is you can't keep track of everything, right?
Wait a minute.
Oh, here we go.
We have to count for every barrel.
That's why those lotteries seem like a mystery to attachment.
Yeah, the new wild turkey orphans is what they call them, right?
Well, the one thing
you can get to 21.
You know, the thing you really, you all remember Forgiven?
Yeah, wild turkey Forgiven, absolutely.
I know.
Yes. See, that was a bad mix-up on our part. We dumped bourbon, and when they got through dumping bourbon from the dump room, tank room, we had to clean out the lines.
Yeah, you had bourbon and rye mixed together, right?
Oh, that was our single barrel rye we're missing today.
Right, we lost 6 months of rye in that deal. Actually, we was going to call it Unforgiven, but we couldn't because Clint Eastwood's got that registered in that movie, so we just took the un off of it. And what it was, they come, and this is what we strive for here. If you make a mistake, we want to know about it. They come and told us what happened. If they hadn't have told us, you wouldn't be here tasting today. We'd still been here counting barrels because the government had come in and said we dumped the wrong barrels and mislabeled them out in the field. But when it's 22% rye, 78% wild turkey bourbon. That's what's it.
So is that now a regular product? I've seen.
Oh no!
You're still trying to market the rest of it.
Oh, Forgiven's gone. Like what you see on the shelves now is the end of it, right?
For a long time, if it's still on the shelf.
Yeah, and then whatever you see now is the end of it, from what I
You see
understand.
that crappy old Fitzgerald stuff in the 60s on the shelves too. That tells you something.
Yeah, right. Those tax stamps, like who wants those, right?
If we ever get caught up on a rye whiskey, yeah, we probably can go. We know we can go back and make it, but we just don't have the rye to make it now.
I guess, Ed, tee us up real quick, like what's happening next, like with the next barrels.
So we have two more barrels to taste here today. They're both technically Kentucky Spirit barrels, but both are heavy proof Kentucky Spirit barrels. They're 120, 121 proof. So they can be bottled as Russells, she said.
With the wild turkey Kentucky Spirit unfiltered label with the 101. That's great.
Yeah, with a pewter top.
Can we just put limited edition next to it too, just to?
With a picture of Ed.
I got in trouble over them pewter tops.
This is barrel.
Did you? I guess that's a good story then. So I guess Jimmy, tell us the story about how you got in trouble with the pewter tops.
Well, what happened? We started down. I see they got the original bottles down there. That's the pewter top and the black case it was in. It's got a black label on it. It should have a black label on it. They wanted to get all of our products looking the same. But what it was, a gentleman come down here. He's complaining. He'd been cutting that pewter tops off, and he'd been making knobs and putting on all of his furniture in his house. And when he quit, he comes and said, I got to get more. I haven't got my furniture finished yet. But he was using them knobs. He was making knobs out of them. Put his.
Gorgeous. You're gorgeous. A few of us have a case of those laying around.
So, Jimmy, I know we talked about it last time you were on the podcast, and I think we have to bring it up again just because of people that they just want to know about it. So, cheesy gold foil, was it a thing? Is it just a thing?
We changed it. That was all 12-year-old. We had 3 or 4 different labels over the years on that. Eddie always thought the cheesy gold was the best looking one of the bunch, but but it was all the same product.
How old was he then?
Who? Well, he was working.
He's at least he's probably 8 around here. So yeah, somebody's got to vacuum the floors. Yeah,
We had a split label.
Yep.
Had the cheesy gold, as Eddie calls it. We had to make a decision. See, the rare breed's got a lot of 12 in it.
okay.
And we had to make a decision, either do away with rare breed or the 12-year-old. And the rare breed outsells, well, actually, right now, unless it's changed in the last year, it's the top-selling barrel proof on the market.
All right, so this is the last barrel that we're picking today. So I kind of want to talk to the guys that are really the main show here. There's an interesting thing that's happening in the whiskey industry today, and it's the fact that like there's not a whole lot of like, it's not like the craft beer industry, right? Like there's a whole lot of like collaboration between breweries, right? They'll bring different yeast strains, they'll bring different kinds of things to each other, right? And the whiskey industry isn't technically really doing that, right? Like everybody has their own silos, but however, you're doing a little something different where you're
true since every family works at every distillery.
Well,
I mean, it's a family tree, it's pretty tight.
Let's be real. We're in Kentucky, right? So there's probably some blending going on anyway, right? So I guess the other way to kind of look at this is that like, what do you think about having a marriage of two different stores, two different groups, whoever it is?
Like a Pappy Van Turkey.
Yeah, there you go.
I like where this conversation's going.
What do you think it is about having like both these groups come together and choose something that makes it either special or unique, whether it's a blend or whether it's buying power? Like I really don't know, right? So I guess kind of talk about that a little bit.
I don't know. For me, when I started talking with Emerald, it's just more about camaraderie, I guess, spreading the love. The stores they're representing are so far north of us, it's not really competition at all with us. And for me, I guess it's more about us meeting guys that I respected in the industry that have done amazing things long before I even set foot in here. And to me, it's more of a
It's all family. You know?
Yeah. I get calls constantly from guys that I've met that I've never physically met, but met online, to come down to Bardstown, hang out, have some pours, and I'll hop in my car and drive down there and go see them. I mean, it's all about spreading the love.
That's how Catch a Predator starts too, by the way.
Yeah, you won't see me on that one.
All right.
Another thing, that's just like these craft distillers starting up now. You know, I tell people now, our vocabulary is better. When I started, there's little family-owned distilleries. Mm-hmm. Now they're craft distilleries. But that's what it was, you know.
Or craft, you all get together and like, man, we should, get some your best barrels, my best barrels, throw them together, see what happens. Let's throw something out there.
No, used to, we don't anymore, but used to, Booker and they all remember, a bunch of us, Parker. Every once in a while, somebody send out a letter, come to our distillery tonight, bring your own bottle, but you can't drink it.
That sounds fun.
Last and out, turn out the lights.
This question, have you guys ever thought about doing a collaboration where you'd mix 5 bottles of Wild Turkey with 3 bottles of Knob Creek? And
One time. We done that for Parker Beam.
Mm-hmm.
For
It was a collaboration series
called Unity. And all of us give them a barrel of bourbon, and Parker and Craig, I still get, he's a close friend of mine. They put it together, and it was called Unity, and they sold it at charitable for ALS disease. And I got a bottle sitting in my office.
That's amazing.
But yeah, we've done that. That's the only one we've ever done that way. But we've done that for Parker when he first got sick. So Parker and Craig put it together, and they bottled it, called it Unity, and they sold it at charitable events to raise money for ALS disease.
That's actually very amazing.
Yeah. I guess, Jimmy, I want to throw another question your way real quick in regards of Parker, because the last time we interviewed was before Parker passed away. And I guess talk about, I guess in regards of what Parker meant to you in the industry. Did Parker really, was he an influence on you or anything like that? Were you guys great friends?
Well,
so kind of talk about that just a little bit.
We were great friends. I was in the business for Parker.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but we all mostly grew up together around here in central part of Kentucky, knew each other, and then was in the business together, and we all always done everything we could to help each other out. It's like I said, when Parker and him had the big fire in '94, I believe, everybody in our business pitched in and helped them do everything they could for them. and that's the way it's always been. You know, we're all family. We're all family.
Well, this has been
It's been interesting.
It's been a crazy day, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're actually fortunate enough that we did our first ever barrel tasting, right, and recorded it as a podcast, which is, I don't know, pretty cool.
I think it's cool. I mean, we got a lot of content. It's going to be a huge editing job. But
yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's really, really great because, I mean, as you can see behind, we got Jimmy Russell right behind us, right? So we've got some really cool, a lot of people that were here that were actually helping us choose the barrels, doing not only just, I mean, usually when we come to these things, you get rolled out like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 barrels, and you choose one. I mean, we had, 10, 12 barrels, and we got to choose 6, right? So I think it was really cool in the fact that we got a very unique experience in regards to that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the picks I've done, it's either 3 or 5 barrels. We did 10 to 12. They were all fantastic. There was a few standouts. I'm interested to see what the guys pick as their, the few that they're gonna, or I guess they're picking 6, but which 6 they're gonna pick. But
I honestly, when you do this, like, do you really think it's hard to choose a bad barrel? Like, I mean, there's some that don't stand out, but I mean, is there really such thing as a bad barrel?
There's none of them that are bad, but there's definitely a few that like you're just like, wow, that one's special, and you want to make sure you get that. None of them were bad, but there were some that I was like, these are good, but the other ones I just would rather have.
I guess,
but that's our palate, it's totally different.
And that's what I think Jimmy said it earlier on the show. He said, when you choose a barrel, choose it for your customers. Like,
right.
You choose it for yourselves. Like, what do your customers really want?
Yeah, and that's what the 1789 guys said. They're like, we know our customers like sugar bombs. They're like real sweet bourbons. That's what they're looking for. So that's kind of what they were looking for. Whereas some of the spicier ones, the big, floral pungent ones, that's the ones I like. So it's interested to see what they'll select.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate. We were fortunate enough that we didn't have like a huge influence on it, right? That
we had zero influence.
I know, exactly, right? Like, let's just kind of be in the background. We'll kind of figure it out. Like, we'll let them figure it out, and we'll just kind of take notes of what they're doing as they go. So I thought that was really cool, doing all this. I guess so. This is your first time doing a Russell's pick, though. Like, what'd you think of it versus Four Roses or whatever other kind of picks you've done before?
This one, the reason I liked it was so much more laid back. Like, the other ones have been on Four Roses, 1792. They were kind of like, all right, let's get you in and out of here. Let's do this fast.
We got 7 of these to do today. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here we've been hanging out. I mean, hell, we had 20 to 30 minutes between each barrel. We've just been shooting the shit, so that's been a fun part, which I haven't got on other barrel picks. Otherwise, it was like you said, we got 7 to go. You got about an hour. Let's get out of here.
I kind of get that same mentality too. I mean, I think the cool thing is coming to Wild Turkey is that they are very laid back. I mean, when they do things, I think they only do just a few a day. I'm talking at the most 2 or 3 a day. And so you have your 10 a.m. crew and then your 1 a.m. crew.
And another big difference is too, generally when I go to barrel picks, they have the barrels sitting right in front of you. Like the ones here, they're just kind of scattered throughout. And we've kind of been making our way throughout the warehouse. We're like, oh, this is on the list. Let's go hunt it down. Put the thief in. It's been really more of a active experience, I guess.
Well, I think the other cool thing is it's not in a warehouse, right? It's actually in a rick house, right? Because you've gone to other barrel picks and they're like, yeah, we'll roll things out in front of you, literally in a warehouse, like whether it's in the visitor center or whether it's wherever, or they'll ship you samples, like whatever it is. So you definitely don't get that full experience as actually just being here in the rick house. I mean, we're sitting here next to, I mean, you probably can't see on the camera right now, but I mean, we've got barrels that some of them are leaking out the side, some of them that are aged, probably at least a solid 5 years, whatever it is, right? So there's definitely a unique aspect to this, and that's for sure.
Yeah, and once again, my leaky barrel theory proved right again. There was a couple leaky barrels, and they were, to me, the standouts, but what do I know?
Well, I think that's part of the thing of why we had Ed on the show.
Yeah.
Why we had to meet up with Reid and Emerald of 1790B and Julio's, because it's one of the bigger liquor stores that we talk about all the time. However, seeing the people that are actually picking them is a huge, I don't know, advantage to be able to see what goes in their thought process.
Yeah, it's just a cool just to pick their brains, see what's going on, what notes they're picking off. You know, because to us, it's like it either is good or not good.
Yeah,
to them, they can kind of guide you through the.
Well, we're not
whole
talking
experience.
like will it 24-year rise
Right,
here, right? I mean,
right.
This is still a very unique aspect of what they're able to bring to the table and what they're able to what we can actually see, right? Because as I was saying earlier in the podcast, like these guys, the sarcasm was laying on them.
Yeah.
Like these guys,
They
like,
say they did 1 or 2. This is
like
the
their
1,000th.
Like, this is their 40th at least. Like we're talking up there in the high, at least in the high 40s, if not the high 30s, right? So we had a lot to learn from their experience, just not to come out here and basically just drink to the point where we're just like, oh, it tastes great. They all taste great. right?
Exactly.
But like, how do you discern the notes? How do you discern the differences? And how do you
Water it down to where it's going to be at bottling. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that throws a lot of people off when you're doing this is like, how do you make sure that you're doing it for the consumer at the end state, right?
Right.
Because when we taste these things, like it's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's
anything out of the
fantastic.
barrel is awesome.
I mean, it's if I had a DeWalt right now, I'd just go and hit this barrel right here and just kind of see what's going on because I think what comes out of the barrel is by far better than anything that you get straight out of the bottle. But at the end, anything making the green egg is always better than I wait an hour and a half before I serve it or whatever.
Right.
it is, right.
I will say this: I've done some barrel selections in the winter, and where the bourbon is cold, and doing it now, and where we're in May, it makes a big difference because you
I
can
agree.
actually like when it's cold, everything tastes similar. So doing it, in the right before summer, it's a good temperature. I think that makes a big difference.
I think you said earlier, Goldschlager in the freezer, right?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
It just mellows out every harsh piece that you can, and then you just chug it at that point. But I think it's been a very unique experience in what it is. So
Yeah, and I hope our guests enjoy it. It was a lot of work and production for this. I think the information will be cool, and the experience, hopefully, you can live vicariously through us. But I think it's time for us to wrap it up and start drinking and enjoying this.
Absolutely. So I want to say thank you for everybody that has either watched this or is listening to this right now. We've got a few more podcasts. We're currently on our break, but we will. This is actually, I guess we're not going to be on a break by the time it comes out.
Right.
However, this is part of the process of making sure that we get some great new content, figuring out what's going to be great for everyone, and
transition to video.
Yeah. So what's up, everybody that's actually watching us on video? Make sure you find us on Facebook because Facebook is going to be the main spot we're going to find all those videos. So make sure you go there, like our Facebook page, and you're going to get most of the information through there now. Starting to veer away from Twitter a little bit because it's just the whiskey nerds a little bit that are on Twitter.
Well, it's a news. I think Twitter's the news, like breaking news. When we're not breaking news, we're just trying to bring you good information.
I think that's a good way to put it, right?
So, if you guys have any show suggestions, feedback, comments, we'd love to hear it. Hopefully you enjoy this first production of a barrel tasting. It was a lot of work, and we don't know what the hell we're doing, as always. It kind of reminds me of the first time we did a podcast, and we had a laptop, and we're like, is it on record or is it not? We don't know what the hell we're doing, but I think it's going to turn out good. A lot of heavy editing, but hope you all enjoy it.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.